Alldus podcast is brought to you by Alldus International, supplying your expert AI and digital transformation staffing needs across the US and Europe. Today, you are listening to our AI in Action series, where leading minds in AI from across the world share their story, success, and advice. AI in Action cuts through the hype and explores the true impact of artificial intelligence in our world today.
You're listening to the Alldus podcast, AI in Action. I'm your host, JP Valentine. Our guest today is Shayde Christian. Shayde is the Chief Data and Analytics Officer at Cloudera. Shayde, welcome to the show.
I'm so happy to be here, and legitimately and really, I truly am.
Delighted to have you. I know we've been talking about getting you on the show for a while, so glad we finally got you here. So lots to cover, but let's start, as always, with yourself, please. Could you give us a little overview of your background in technology and what your journey has been from where you got started, maybe some of the interesting roles you've held along the way, and what's led you to where you are today as the Chief Data and Analytics Officer at Cloudera?
Sure, JP. I followed a very standard route to CDAO. I started as a heavy metal guitarist, and then I became an IT program manager for about 10 years. Then I led a professional services group. And then I sold everything I owned and packed up and moved to LA to be a screenwriter and a filmmaker. Then I became a consultant in data, right? A traditional path, exactly. And I was a consultant, worked my way to principal in terms of data strategy. And then I took my first head of analytics and data role with a Fortune 200 company, a healthcare company in the States. And then I came to Cloudera. So your traditional path to the Alldus AI in Action podcast.
Yeah, I feel like we could probably spend the whole interview talking about the many career pivots. We don't have enough time as much as I would love to, but I do want to just get your take on what led you to make those step changes and important reflection moments in your career that has brought you to where you are today. For those listening who maybe haven't found their direct path, I always find the more interesting guests have had non-traditional routes to their very senior leadership position, and you're a perfect example of that.
Interestingly, JP, a friend of a friend interviewed me 2 weeks ago to look at my path because he's a professional poker player and is considering doing something different. He's a successful poker player as well. And I said, I have one great advantage. I get pulled on to my next thing. Usually I'm feeling some urge, typically creative. And I feel overwhelmed with the desire to do that and to be happy every day. And so I lose myself in what I call flow. My perfect day is I get up and for 12 hours, I don't even know I'm doing something. And then my wife taps me to come for dinner. And so I've just followed that path. So I've had the call to be a guitarist and to do films. And I felt the call to, I'm very analytical. So I wanted to be in data. And so I'm lucky in that way. I would say that if you don't get called, and you don't get compelled, I think it's important to sit down and realize who you are. I love making spreadsheets, and I used to think it was so that I would be good and track what I did to get to my 10,000 steps to be great at something. But the truth is, I just love putting spreadsheets together. It's the most ridiculous thing. And so look at the things that you do, look at the things that excite you, and realize that's part of your core, and pick something and choose something that really is at your core.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for that. So let's jump into the fun stuff. Cloudera as a business, well-known, huge brand, but I want to start with giving you the platform to speak to the audience about Cloudera and the entirety of what you do. So who you are, what you do as a business, and the mission of the organization.
Yeah, sure. Happy to go into that. Most people think we're a Hadoop company. We're not. That was our initial innovation, right? We ushered in big data because we brought enterprise grade big data tools, right? But it's like Thomas Edison started with, stock ticker technology. Had he stopped, we wouldn't have the light bulb and the phonograph and the movie camera, right? So Cloudera has followed the same path. We have several innovations that are extremely important. We have a full data life cycle of a product suite that we've led, where you can store data, analyze data, manage data, visualize it in AI, and AI before it was cool, by the way.
Yeah.
We are the only true hybrid company. And what that means is that many people are on-prem, many people are in cloud, many people are both. A lot of global organizations like ours are multi-cloud, right? So Cloudera enables you to write your workload once and run it anywhere. Whereas if you were going to go with GCP and Azure, you'd have to build things or replicate things. And the other thing that we do really well is we enable modern data architecture, which is data fabric, open data lakehouses, data mesh. And for people who want to scale AI, those are the essential architectures that you really need to accomplish it. So not your daddy's Hadoop company anymore. We've had a lot of significant innovation.
Yeah, lots of iterations along the way. And as you mentioned there, AI now at the forefront of what you're doing and helping your customers run towards AI adoption. Obviously, you're sitting at the top table. You're looking at strategic moves way down the line, but you're also temperature checking on conversations from your customers right now. What are some of the challenges that you're hearing that your customers are facing, and how are Cloudera helping the customers address those problems?
Well, we have the largest brands and the largest companies in the world, and a lot of them are in regulated industries, JP. And so the first setback is resistance, or if that resistance is deeply held, let's call it fear. And fear is legitimate, right? Because you have your sensitive customer data, your financial data, and that's really what you want to train models on for AI to be effective. But you don't want to hand that data off in the public cloud to a proprietary or open source model. So what we're advising our customers to do is to bring those models to the data inside your private and secure data platform and embed them and cut them off so that you can utilize your data and train AI in a way that's really helpful and beneficial to your company. So the first thing, the challenge everybody faces is, can I do this safely? And then when you agree that you can and you start to maneuver with it, you learn very quickly that data quality becomes an issue. With traditional analytics and machine learning, data quality was very important, but with AI, it becomes essential. And there is a silver lining to that dark cloud, which is that your data quality improvement organization exponentially grows because it's not just IT anymore. You have your business subject matter expertise, experts who are actually doing the prompt engineering and giving you the feedback with the thumbs up or thumbs down, or specifically what was unreliable or inaccurate with the response. So you really have to have that feedback loop with your customers to face the data quality issue, which means that data lineage and metadata management becomes essential as well, which is why we recently bought a company called Octopi. It's a world leader in that category.
Shay, let's say in speaking to your customers, you're able to educate them on the cost benefit analysis, you're able to help them understand and mitigate risk, and you see sufficient metadata, and you're talking to them about data quality. What's next? Because what you're talking about in this hybrid setup is truly unique and will probably help overcome a lot of those concerns and challenges. But how does that play out?
Yeah, well, if you've overcome those challenges, right, that means you're experimenting and having proof of concepts with AI, which means you're at least close to, if not already operationalizing enterprise AI apps. And when you get to that stage, you face a bevy of new challenges, which are really around scalability. How do I tie these things together? How do I productionalize them? And there is cost elements of AI inference. It's very expensive. So that becomes something that you need to discuss. But it's also just the mechanics and the frameworks of how you tie all of this together. And the opposite side of the coin of scalability is really about ROI, because we're now going to be held to the same rigor and standard we have with traditional analytics, which is you're not going to be able to spend this money unless you justify it. So how do you justify the ROI? And I think there's two ways to do that, two ways that our customers and people I'm talking about, two of my peers at conferences are really doing here. The first thing is you look for the killer app, you look for the innovative use case. And so if you're in customer support, you're really revolutionizing your customer support model where AI can do almost all of it for you and you can be hands-off and it's accurate and reliable. If you're in healthcare, it's using image recognition models to detect cancer. If you're in insurance, this is fascinating. If you're in insurance, the killer app is you get external images from space after a natural disaster happens, AI looks at it and says, oh, our insurer at this address was unaffected or partially devastated, or the structure was totally devastated. And an ACH payment gets cut the next day for the property, no site visit, no nothing. Killer app, right? And then, of course, for tech and in IT groups, what we're trying to do is effectively use co-pilots to revolutionize how software development happens. But those illustrations of high business driving ROI, high value AI are long-term plays. They take a long time. So what we've done and what we're advising others to do is learn how to stitch together the applications that you've developed in a local way today through agentic AI. And as you start to replicate and make available to other units these capabilities that you've enabled, the ROI will scale up with you.
Yeah, and it's still generating game-changing outcomes right now with what's available without thinking too far afield of what's possible down the line. And some great examples across multiple industries. In order for you guys to do so, you need experts internally. And the competition for elite talent is fierce. The supply is struggling to meet up with the demand, albeit lots of people looking to get into AI. But when you think about force multipliers and innovators, they're hard to come by. But Cloudera has been able to remain at the forefront, hyper competitive, and providing AI expertise to, as you mentioned, like Fortune 200 organizations. How do you guys stay current, stay competitive, and through the lens of ensuring that you attract and nurture talent?
It's a tough one. It's a tough one. You know, the advice years ago to 2022 was you have to attract top AI talent. Well, how deep do you have to deep to find them? And then when you find them, how much more do you have to dig to find the gold to pay them? It's like, it's a rough challenge, right? And so obviously we were successful in doing that in engineering and R&D. In our company, we hired top talent, but then we ran into the same problem as everybody else. Okay, where are they now? And so we started our M&A activity around acquiring AI companies. And of course, there has to be synergy with the product, right? Their product and our product have to integrate together. But we do those things as much for the talent as we do for the product capability. Not everybody can do that, so we're a little lucky in that regard. I'm not as lucky. I don't have the budget that engineering has. So my group, JP, we are data analytics and AI internally. We drive business value with our products.
Yeah.
And so what I have to do is my data analysts, my data engineers, and my data architects are starting from scratch and just diving into the technology. We have access to the architects that have come into the company, and they can look at our plans and they can guide us and say, good idea, great idea, not so good, try this, try that. So we have that benefit. But we're really bootstrapping. And I guess my team is doing extremely well because we started with 70% Python efficiency, and we kind of had some great skills going forward. But I'm interested in your opinion on this. Like how is the world accomplishing this in my seat?
That's a great question. And I spend so much time outside of podcasts talking to people at your level about this. I think expectation setting, first and foremost, is a critical component. What level are you trying to compete? Who are you competing against? And then you pick your lane, because not everyone is going to have the blank checkbook of big hedge funds or some of the premier guys in Silicon Valley. So it's knowing what you can expect for the level you're competing. And then there's a few things that are universally important. A clear message and mission statement to the individual, not just what are we looking for from you, but what can we give to you by way of nurturing and developing your career. The interview process is one of the most overlooked parts of it that companies can absolutely nail or be the result of them not hiring at all. Efficient interview process where everyone who's involved at every step is promoting the organization, as opposed to really intense grilling of the candidate, and only if you decide to offer do you then start to sell the role back to them. The companies who have it best is They choose their values, they understand what they can get for the dollar amount that they're looking to compete in, and then they nail the other components. Really clear message and mission, really effective interview process, which gets the balance between assessing the individual's suitability while also getting the individual a staircase of interest. So when it gets to offer stage, most of the great candidates have multiple opportunities to choose from. Then it just comes down to offer to acceptance ratio. So we spend a lot of time helping organizations understand what they're competing against so they can have a really good interview to placement ratio, and that's really all it comes down to. And look, some people are going to want to move every 2-3 years. It's not like it was previously where you would see individuals stay 10, 15, 20 years. Sometimes it's just about are they getting enough internal development and opportunity to keep them? So no silver bullet, but it really comes down to making sure you're competitive, and that's pretty much it.
My team just delivered to HR last week an interview tool, including how best to identify and what great questions to ask. So now I'm going to interview you to get my AI in action, JP.
Shayde, I would love to. I can arm you with all that information, and we make sure that you and your team absolutely nail it. Cloudera have been very successful in hiring. We're talking about what works. You're asking me some great questions, but you guys are doing a lot of this. A big component is the environment. You guys have great retention. People who work at Cloudera love it. Why? Why is Cloudera considered a great place to work?
I don't think you know this, but we are legitimately and officially the #1 place to work in your homeland. We just got it again last week in Ireland. We are 2 years running the best place to work. We're very
There's some
proud.
stiff competition there. You take any of the Fortune 500 or particularly the big tech organizations, they've got a presence in Ireland. So that's quite the achievement.
Well, I agree. We're based in Cork. You're from Dublin. I don't know how you feel about that now. But we're very proud of it. And I personally, my personal opinion is that we are a great place to work because we really honor individuals. We honor them in the way that you're speaking about. We have to innovate. So we have a lot of experimentation going. It's very exciting work, and that exciting work really attracts people. But we have many other ways in which we really honor individuals, one of which is that we allot several unplugged days where we encourage you not to work. That's not even including your PTO, and our PTO policy is very generous. If you really work hard, we want you to play hard as well. I think with my team, JP, there's another thing that really makes us feel great about Cloudera. That is that we can reject any work, even from our C-suite, well, maybe not from the C-suite. We can reject any work that isn't aligned to our strategic objectives and goals, and our strategic objectives and goals are taken right out of our corporate objectives. So every single thing that we do aligns with the top line growth, bottom line growth, and customer experience improvement that the company's looking for. So when we look at our own dashboards and we see numbers changing and improvement, we feel pride in that. And when somebody from the C-suite comes to our town hall and says, you guys were instrumental, that makes us feel really good. And so I guess I would say Cloudera is a great place to work because our employees are purposeful and they feel the purpose.
Shayde, the thing that stood out there for me was impact. Employees at all levels can have an impact and know their work matters, which is huge. The exciting part for me, as always, in these conversations is to hear what you're looking forward to. When you look at the near-term roadmap, what's possible for Cloudera, particularly with the increased use cases for AI, what are you excited about?
Well, we have grand visions, JP, in my group. We have a horizon that's pretty vast, but it's looming in the near term, and so we're getting very excited. So a long time ago, there's this thing called computing that developed, and the world has changed unbelievably because of computing. There was one side effect that was unfortunate, which was the business went on speaking the language of business. And IT started speaking this language of machine, and this language barrier has just widened over time. And so my team specifically, and getting goosebumps, has this grand notion that we're going to solve that problem once and for all, the 70-year-old problem. And so we're using copilots extremely effectively to build our capability. None of us want to do data quality checks or optimize our code or document our code, but AI enables us to have that capability with very little effort. And now we're seeing this great efficiency through co-pilots being able to code with us, right? And we're spending that efficiency with agentic AI to tie our apps together. And what's so exciting for us is that we're very close to being able to enable a business subject matter expert who may be an expert in the data, but not know where it is, what it's called, how to reference it. I don't speak Python, I don't speak SQL, but I can talk or type and say, I want this dashboard with these qualities and these graphics, and have true self-service in the business where natural language is now what tech and business speak together. So yeah, we have grand notions, JP, on what we can do.
Well, that, if you guys are successful, will be bridging what has long been the biggest gap between front office SMEs and the people behind the scenes, to be able to cross communicate, to get mutual understanding, which leads to trust, and ultimately, right hand working with left. That's always been the struggle. And even when we work with organizations to try help them find talent, the purple unicorn or the A player is always somebody who can sit both sides, who can understand the tech jargon, but then have a conversation with the non-tech internal workforce and then the customers to help them understand. So that's super cool. And all roads on that will flow through your department, because that's your responsibility. Final question from me. Sure. Speaking to an audience of potential future employees, future work colleagues, when you look at the continued growth of Cloudera, the continued investment in talent, where do you see the evolution of career opportunities going? And with that, when you're speaking to people about Cloudera, what do you personally tell them about the work, the environment that would get them interested enough to join you guys over some of the other great organizations?
The world is changing, software development is changing, engineering is changing, right? And so the best sell for a company like Cloudera is we're on the forefront of that. And it's changing so rapidly that if you're not with a company that's doing, if you're not investing in generative BI, like I just mentioned, you're going to be doing things next year that you've always done, but your competitors are not. They're going to be able to get out the insights in the analytics in a matter of hours instead of weeks. What I would be looking at if I were an individual contributor these days is, where can I go to be on the forefront of it? None of my employees are going to lose their jobs after we do these great grandiose things. We're just going to be in the new environment, in a new way, and we're going to be investing ourselves into the business. We're going to become deadly because we're going to know the business as well as the business, and then have all of our acumen, technical acumen and skill, right? And so I think you got to be with a forward-looking group that's experimenting a lot and pushing that forefront of engineering evolution.
And I think that answers the second part of the question, which is why work at Cloudera?
Because we're the best. We're number one. We're rated number one, and everything is peachy with us, or orange, I guess.
Well, nothing you've said today would contradict that. So, Shayde, thank you so much for coming on today and doing this. I know we've been planning this for a while. I know you're comfortable on the speaking circuit, so I knew this would be a good one, and it didn't disappoint. So, really appreciate you sharing your own journey, non-traditional path, but most importantly, an insight into the amazing work that you're doing at Cloudera, and how you guys are really leaning into the use of AI and making you guys better at what you do.
You're welcome. I'm a fan of what you do. I love watching these and would encourage your audience to pursue other episodes.
Indeed, and I look forward to having you back on the show in the near future. Maybe next time we'll keep a little bit more time in the intro to delve a little deeper into some of the weird and wonderful career changes. But for now, Shayde, thank you so much, my friend.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Alldus podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and any Android podcast of choice. You can also head over to our website, www.alldus.com, to listen to more podcasts, view our open roles, and stay up to date with industry news. Thanks for listening and stay tuned for more great episodes coming very soon.